Trick Room team here coming out from River if we're going to really see that Rhyperior get some use, but I think Raghav has a lot of sustainability.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know about a heavy Trick Room. It's definitely an option. You know, you've got the Jellicent that sets it really well, the Ferrothorn that you know, really is able to take advantage of that and cause a lot of problems. Of course, both players with the Arcanine, I think what you're going to have to do if you're playing, you want to bring your Ferrothorn, you're going to have to make sure that Arcanine is taken care of, and that's always going to be a bit of an ask. Of course, we are ready to start the first regional here, the first game coming right up, and I think it's going to be a pretty exciting lead as we see them take the field. Jellicent and Togekiss for River Davis, and Raghav Malaviya leading with Milotic and Rotom Mo.
Oh, that Rotom. I mean, there's some really cheeky things that you get a chance to do with that. I've seen a lot of players actually put a move called Ally Switch onto that Rotom. What Ally Switch actually does is it allows you to swap sides of the field with your ally, as the name would suggest. And
its priority as well, so
yes.
It just messes you up for the turn order. Jellicent probably looking to try and set a Trick Room here. Togekiss is going to take that Thunderbolt and get paralyzed as well.
Ooh, that's going to be a tough one for River to get through, but Milotic's actually going for something that's fairly unique here, going to raise its attack, its defense, and its accuracy, and that Togekiss actually gets paralyzed, can't use anything this turn, but Jellicent does get a chance to set up that Trick Room.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's exactly what River wanted, right? Just able to sit there and go, hey, I'm going to really quickly turn this game around and just exactly swap it over. As you see on the screen, Trick Room has 4 more turns. So that's 4 turns for River to really take advantage using some of those big attackers. Right now, Milotic is setting up coils, probably trying to put himself in a better position. And Rotom there, I think, worried, of course, about exactly what the Togekiss was going to do. Togekiss, well known for its use of Follow Me. So that's where you see the Rotom just throw the Thunderbolt at it, try and deal with it that way, and go from there. The Jellicent's getting out immediately. Done its job, set up Trick Room, making room right away for Ferrothorn.
Ferrothorn is going to come out for River side of the field, but it's actually time for our very first Dynamax of Sword and Shield in the United States here. It is going to be the Rotom Mo getting that Dynamax energy, and I mean, they did say things are bigger in Texas, but I didn't know they were talking about the Pokemon.
The Rotom looks, I'm just going to be honest, hilarious big, but it's now in a really good position to try and deal some huge damage. That's why he used the coil. We saw it a minute ago. He used the coil to try and make his accuracy up for Hypnosis. Didn't quite get there, and now the Mo is big. No Thunderbolts this turn. Max Lightning coming out from this Rotom. It's going to set up its terrain. That's really important, and go from there.
Yeah, Togekiss is going to get knocked out here, but that Rotom is sitting pretty right now with full HP as well as the Dynamax. And you have 3 more turns of Trick Room, 4 turns of Electric Terrain left. And Rhyperior now in the back here for River is going to take that Togekiss's spot.
Yeah, I think this is a great switch in. We talked about Rhyperior at the top of the show a little bit, and just how good it can be in Trick Room. Knowing about that, you know, you want to bring it in. I think it's going to be the choice for the Dynamax here, and you need to start doing some really good work against this Rotom. If this Rotom can take a couple of hits, maybe 1 from each of River's Pokemon, then he's going to be able to hit back, and that could be a real issue for this Rhyperior. We see that huge amount of health that it now has, sitting at 438 HP.
I mean, you mentioned how much of a tank this Rhyperior really can be, and you can see right there with how much HP it has, but Milotic's going to have to take a bit of a power whip here. It's going to be super effective, but Milotic able to fire back with a Muddy Water. Rhyperior is going to protect itself with that Max Guard, though.
Yeah, Rhyperior is, of course, going to be the focus for River here. Does want to take a turn to keep it safe, maybe see what's going on, try and put himself in a better position. And the Overgrowth, of course, the Max Overgrowth, landing into the protecting Rhyperior.
Wow, that was a really big turn there for River to be able to protect the Rhyperior, because remember how we talked about how impactful you need to really make those turns with Dynamax, and that's 1 turn that this Rotom now doesn't get a chance to use.
Yeah, one thing that's really cool to see, actually, that Milotic's coil not only was looking to boost the accuracy for Hypnosis, but also boost its attack and defense, which means it took that Power Whip a little better and might make it a little more of a concern to try and get there. This is a cheeky play, though. This is is going to be a side gyro ball to activate your own weakness policy.
Oh, and this is where Rhyperior gets a chance to use a lot of damage here. Max Rockfall now after the weakness policy has been procced, and Milotic not able to withstand that one even after the coil.
Yeah, there's no way. After a weakness policy, you're not getting through that in the slightest. Milotic failed. Clearly River a little bit worried about it for the rest of the game. But this does mean Rotom's going to be allowed to max Overgrowth directly into this Rhyperior. It's going to take it pretty well. But, you know, set up some terrain, make that Ferrothorn potentially even a little bit harder to deal with if it's getting more recovery.
Yeah, one of the things that Grassy Terrain does after Max Overgrowth sets it is it does allow every Pokemon on the field to regain a bit of their health. So Rhyperior is actually going to get a little bit of that health back as well.
Yep, well this is going to be the last turn as well for Rotom as the Dynamax Pokemon, so I think he's really going to want to try and get another Max Overgrowth out, try and deal with the Rhyperior here. Oh, it's the last turn, like it's done. He's Max Lightning, he's Max Overgrowth, and then he's landed it into the Max Guard, so time's up for that Rotom, and you know this is going to be the last turn for Rhyperior as a Dynamax Pokemon, and the last turn of Trick Room as well. So I really see, if I'm in River's shoes right here, you need to carve open a huge advantage right now, because if Trick Room ends, you could be in a bit of a tricky situation.
Well, you still have the Jellicent in the back if you are River, so you have the opportunity to set the Trick Room once again, but it is going to actually need a bit of a pivot here, which is what you're seeing right now coming out from River, going to withdraw that Ferrothorn, bringing the Jellicent back out and setting it up just in case we do need to set Trick Room again. Now, on Raghav's side of the field, you have the Togekiss that went for a Protect, and Rotom's actually protecting as well. And this ends up being kind of important because Raghav is trying to stall out this very last turn, but even with a max move, it still goes through the Protect.
Yeah, I mean, the Rotom took a lot of damage, and it's a good job it did Protect, otherwise it was going to be felled by the Max Rockfall. I think what we're seeing here is a really good play from River, very aware of where he needs to be in a turn or so. You know, knows that he's going to need to set Trick Room up pretty much immediately, and so as soon as those Twisted Dimensions return to normal, he's ready to go. He's ready to just set Trick Room, and honestly, I'm not sure if Raghav has a clear and defined answer right now to stop that one from happening.
Well, we still don't know what's in the back, and I am worried a little bit about Raghav's answer to the Ferrothorn that River still has in waiting. That is just such a bulky Pokemon, and you kind of mentioned it before, where it's really difficult to fell a Ferrothorn sometimes.
I mean, what could be cool? I mean, let's look at it this way. If Rhyperior is felled, and you have Jellicent and Ferrothorn as your last pairing, you're going to be in a pretty good position. The best thing to deal, of course, with something like that Ferrothorn is going to be an Arcanine, a Fire-type move. And you've got Jellicent kind of covering your bases there. So it's not the most conventional back pairing, but it could just partner up really, really well.
Oh, well, this actually ended up being a pretty good turn here for Raghav, getting a chance to remove that Rhyperior from battle. And even though the Trick Room gets set, the Rhyperior is no longer there for River. So this was a great turn for Raghav. Got a chance to use the Yawn from the Togekiss as well onto the Jellicent, so that Jellicent's going to get put to sleep pretty soon here.
Yeah, that Jellicent's going to be able to do something next turn, then it's going to be off to sleep, and that actually opens up those options in play. Getting something like that Arcanine in safely, you know, being able to maybe deal with the Jellicent while it's asleep, land some big Thunderbolts in it from this Rotom Mo, and just keep yourself in a good position. You want to buy a little bit of time right now with the Togekiss. But, you know, River's not in a bad spot either. He has a Ferrothorn. We know it's got Gyro Ball. That's going to do a lot of damage to this Togekiss. It's going to be in a good position to maybe even try and like, slow the game right down, land some Leech Seeds, and really, really push it.
Well, Togekiss is going to use Follow Me here, a move that's going to draw all of the attention from the attacks on Riverside to that Togekiss. So Leech Seed going to find its mark there onto Raghav's Togekiss, and that's going to really make that Ferrothorn very sticky here. Scald as well. Not going to do too much damage to that Togekiss either, but it's time for Rotom to make its move, going to Thunderbolt into the Jellicent, and oh boy.
Yeah, these are not big hits, I think is the way to say it. You know, we're used to some of the Dynamax Pokemon taking it really, really well. We are going to see Rotom's item revealed, which could be important for the rest of the set. We are going to see the Citrus Berry into play there, and that's pretty cool. Jellicent's getting its health back. We're going to do a lot of recovery right now. We've got Grassy Terrain going as well. So some of the Pokemon, all the Pokemon on the ground as well, going to be able to pick up some extra health. Sandstorm's going to stop soon. That's going to help. Grassy Terrain will also end in that same turn. But right now, I think both players just trying to find that little edge, that little advantage. Of course, now the Jellicent's asleep. This really does give Raghav a couple of turns to just start wailing on this Jellicent with the Rotom. And there it is. He does reveal his last Pokemon is going to be that Arcanine. He's going to be able to land a really nice fire type attack on this Ferrothorn.
Not only that, but this Arcanine's also running the ability Intimidate, so it's going to lower the attack stat of both River's Jellicent as well as the Ferrothorn. But while this Jellicent is asleep, it's just going to be taking attack after attack from this Rotom Mow, and it's going to be that Thunderbolt that tries to fell this Jellicent.
It looks like this Thunderbolt is going to take potentially 4 Thunderbolts to knock it out.
Yeah.
And that is a question that you have to really ask. Like, is this an easy Pokemon to take out? The answer, no, it's definitely not. With the recovery as well that he's been getting between some of the turns, we could be looking at more than 4. He's going to want to look for a bigger hit. But right now, he knows that Jellicent's asleep. He's able to sit the Arcanine in there for a little bit and just try and get some real good damage down.
Well, I actually really like this switch out here from Raghav because you had the Arcanine do its Intimidate, and now you get a chance to just get another free switch in here because River ended up going for a Protect onto the Ferrothorn. Jellicent woke up, though, going to be able to go for a Scald onto the Togekiss, and that is going to keep that Arcanine very safe. What an incredible play coming out from Raghav.
Yeah, I mean, that's really worked out so well for him. Of course, you know that the Ferrothorn's going to be protecting. There's no point leaving it in there, just wailing into a Protect. You can't really do much towards that Jellicent right now, so you may as well get it out. And the fact that it woke up and Scalded that turn as well, really, really big deal, I think, for Raghav to make that play. Of course, the Trick Room turns are ticking right down as well. And while you want to take the most advantage of them, he's probably not quite there yet. Togekiss is going to be hanging on thanks to that Babiri Berry that's been so popular.
That is going to be 2 items revealed now for the side of Raghav, though both of those berries being on Rotom as well as this Togekiss. And that Togekiss being able to hang on is so important here because it will be able to get off at least 1 more attack for this Rotom.
Yeah, and this Jellicent causing some problems, revealing Strength Sap. Definitely a new one to those of you at home, something we haven't seen. It's a nice new move, but Jellicent being able to cause some problems. Of course, there is this real tough issue right now where you need to deal with this Jellicent. You don't want Trick Room to go back up. It's still just hanging on. Togekiss starts launching attacks. Togekiss is going to help, and Jellicent finally felled.
Finally going to go down here, getting knocked out, and that's going to be 1 Thorn in Raghav's side now out of the way. But Togekiss is going to go down a champion here, finally being able to remove that Jellicent from the field.
Yep, and the big problem for that is it means Arcanine's coming in.
Yeah.
And Arcanine is going to feast on this Ferrothorn. It's been a really good game played by both, but Raghav has made so many great plays towards the end that I think he's shown he knows his team inside and out. Don't forget, this Rotom Mow has been on the field since turn 1. It hasn't left yet. The only damage it took was through that Protect from the Rock Fall. So it's been a tough one.
It has, and really what is River's answer to that Rotom Mow, because it just the turn 1 Dynamax, or the turn 2 Dynamax, it made it so difficult to actually remove that Rotom from the field, particularly because River wasn't really bringing any Pokemon that was dishing out big damage. I mean, Jellicent as well as the Ferrothorn, they just sit on the field and tried to stall out with the sustainability that they offer, and once Rhyperior went down, River didn't really have another option.
No, I mean, that was his biggest attacking threat. Obviously, Jellicent and Ferrothorn were complementing each other very well, but the offensive pressure was just a little low. And I think if you're River, maybe it's time to look at your team and say, hey, let's try something else. I really love that sideways gyro ball. Obviously, you can attack the slot next to you. There's also spread moves that kind of do it for you. So only like that he went all in on that. He did want to take advantage of the weakness policy and the Trick Room all in one go. But maybe, you know, got to get a little smarter on the targeting there. Make sure you're not landing it into the Protects. And it's tough when you set Trick Room with such a defensive lead, because then you're stuck for a turn without an offensive threat. So if there's a way he can kind of speed up that process and get those switches done a little bit easier, he could be in a really good position.
Well, something that I think we definitely need to point out in terms of the way that Raghav actually played that game, that Togekiss was so sticky.
Yeah, it was real bulky.
Yeah, like just sat on the field. And it complemented the Rotom so well, because the reason why the Rotom was able to actually just stay around on the field and do the damage that it did and not have to switch out is because of all the follow-me's that Togekiss used.
Yeah, the Togekiss, I think, provided so much. The Yawn as well meant that the Arcanine was a little bit safer for maybe 1 or 2 turns. The Dazzling Gleam helped exactly when he needed it. He just needed a bit more damage. I think Togekiss is probably going to be one of the most common and popular Pokemon that we see this year. I can't see a world where we don't see Togekiss used consistently over the course of a number of months.
Well, what's really interesting is Togekiss actually either holds a Babiri Berry, or sometimes actually players have been putting weakness policy on that Togekiss, but we know from this last game, Raghav's Togekiss is carrying that Babiri Berry, and it made it so much more healthy versus that Ferrothorn that we saw River bring.
Yeah, I mean, there's been some really cool ideas coming from the player base already. I think Babiri Berry is probably one of the most common items on Togekiss. It's definitely right up there as it kind of comes down to it. And you can take some really hard hits just on the nose as Togekiss and go from there. You know, something like a Max Steel Spike coming out of a big Pokemon, really, really possible to take that. So really nice kind of team building and ideation from the community, I think, so far, putting together some really cool ideas. And I'd be curious to see how that evolves, because there are options where, you know about the Babiri Berry, you need the one-hit knockout, so you look for a different option. A Max Rockfall, for example, could do it. And I think those kind of ideas are going to become prevalent. They're going to start really shaping how we see VGC 2020.
I'm really curious to see the adjustments that River decides to make for maybe setting up that Trick Room a little bit faster, or going for maybe a different approach to that particular matchup. Like, is Trick Room the best option for River given the Pokemon that he's bringing?
I think so, yes. It's tough because obviously he used Trick Room and he didn't win in that game, so it's kind of hard to justify and say, well, that was the perfect play. But at the same time,
Might be the only one.
Yeah, if that's what his team's focused on, he's going to be in a good position. And there comes that point where if you don't play the mode that you're most comfortable with and you think puts your best foot forward, you're kind of playing the other player's game a little bit, and you're playing it a little bit slower. So while you look at Raghav's team, it's one of those teams that's just nicely well-rounded. It has a whole lot of options. It's just a team full of really, really good stuff. There's no like overarching pairing. Of course, we did see the Sand pairing up in there as well, which is a nice option. See if he can bring that. But that's just one of the options on his team. He can play it a number of ways, and I'd be curious to see if he mixes it up and just goes offense.
I actually really like the way that River played the game, even though the Trick Room didn't quite work out, particularly the way that I think they were hoping that it would. There were still some really great ways that River set up for the second Trick Room, and just the situational awareness of, I'm going to have to get this up. This is my win condition, and this is the only way that I'm really going to be able to take this game.
Well, I think what's cool, and this is something that has always been talked about with Trick Room teams, obviously you set it once, and you get those opening 4-5 turns that are all to you. And then there's always that discussion of what do you do after that? If your opponent can stall it out, drag the game out, then what do you do? And River played it so well by just saying, all right, I'll take the Trick Room user out, and then I'll bring it back later when I need it. And that's just really smart play, really kind of managing his board position to make sure he's playing as much of the game as possible in that, that changed, not terrain, it's a room, but playing it exactly how he wants it.
Absolutely. There's so much that we can kind of break down here, but I'm excited to see the second game here between these two players. I think we're just waiting for a couple of things on stage, but hopefully within the next couple of seconds we'll be able to get you that second game. But I am just so excited. We got a chance to see our very first Dynamax Pokemon on the stream, and you love to see it.
Yeah, no, I think both players are bringing some really popular options for the Dynamax. That Rotom has been known to carry those choice items. And as we talked about at the top of the show, hey, choice items are great and you do a whole lot of damage, but they're really annoying when you're locked in one move. And being able to break that lock, of course, by coming out of it, being able to put yourself in a good position that way, really, really nice to see. So, not sure on the item on the Rotom. Oh, we saw the Citrus Berry. But, being able to kind of mix it up there, really, really cool.
There isn't too much information that actually got revealed by River's team either. We know that when we see a Rhyperior, it's more often than not going to end up being that weakness policy that's on it. But the other thing, too, is we just saw leftovers on the Ferrothorn. That's it. Yeah,
I mean, it's tough to not give up too much information. But I think both players kept things pretty chilled out, pretty lucky. I mean, Rotom over Citrus Berry is definitely one that you want to learn about as soon as possible, because you can kind of figure it out based on the damage it's doing or when it's moving in the turn. Like if it's a choice specs, hey, guess what? You're going to see a whole lot more damage. And honestly, I think Raghav may be thinking, well, why don't choice specs? Because the damage it was doing to that Jellicent, how do we put it politely? Painfully low. It was a bit of a tickling contest in that regard.
A little bit.
Yeah, it wasn't the strongest. Does look like we're going to be waiting a moment, just players getting ready. Of course, huge tournament. Just a little shout out. The tournament room looks amazing.
It really does.
For those of you who haven't been to a regional, I implore you to check one out now we're on Sword and Shield. They just look phenomenal. Everyone on their Switch. From back in the day, I can tell you, an upgrade from the DSi to the 3DS to the Switch. It's phenomenal. You've got to come and check one out sometime.
Absolutely. And if you are interested in getting a chance to play some of our Pokemon events, you should go to Pokemon.com. You can take a look at the event locator. We've got tons of different options for you. If you're just starting out, maybe you check out a Premier Challenge or two in your local scene and then work your way up from there. We've got mid-season showdowns, and then you've got your regionals and your internationals after that. And of course, the World Championships that you can try to get your invite for from playing in the Premier Challenges all the way up through the internationals. So lots of different levels of competition, and you can kind of wade your way in. It's not so scary.
It's not at all. I mean, I think most weekends since the format changed, of course we moved over to Sword and Shield right at the top of the year, I think every weekend since then around the country there has been Premier Challenges or mid-season showdowns.
There's been so many.
Premier Challenges are not an overwhelming task. They're a nice friendly little tournament. You know, it's going to be, depending on player counts, not too many rounds, not as many as we have here today. But it's a real nice way to get involved and get playing. And then if you go and enjoy that, come back and do a mid-season. So definitely look at the Play Pokemon events. There's a full list of regionals on there. There's still a bunch more to go this year. And get involved if you like watching. Why aren't you playing is the question I pose to you.
I believe the next regional in the United States is actually going to be in Collinsville. So get your calendars out. Look out for that one if you couldn't make it to Dallas. But we have more Dallas action coming up for you shortly. There's just so much that you can do in the Pokemon sphere. And you can play not just the video game championships that we're talking about here, but we also have the trading card game. I think there's also Pokken. There's so many different ways that you can enjoy the game of Pokemon. Yeah,
I mean, the trading card game guys, for once looking over us with jealousy. We are the bigger tournament in this one. And, it's been a while. We shouldn't probably go on too loud about it. But they're waiting. If you're a trading card game fan, the Sword and Shield set is coming out soon. Pre-release is coming up now. Check that out as well. If you do the event search, you can actually look at pretty much everything from local leagues to pre-releases to Premier Challenges and mid-seasons, the equivalent those guys have in TCG, the League Challenge and the League Cup. So plenty of ways to be engaged, of course, with Pokemon. And the Play Pokemon circuit, also just use the hashtag on Twitter. That's one way to get involved.
Absolutely. Not only can you use the hashtag Play Pokemon to take a look at all the action that's happening here in Dallas, but you can also take a look at your local scene too. A lot of tournaments get promoted on social media by using the hashtag Play Pokemon. So maybe you guys will be able to get a chance to do that. But I think we're almost ready for that second game. So let's see if we can get that back up there for you.
Yeah, the players definitely have had some time to think about how to adjust their game plan. I'm going to be honest, this is always a tough decision, right? When you go back-to-back in games, if you've lost, you want to make sure you can make a change to turn that result around. But if you've won, you don't want to run the exact same strategy back because then they're going to know how to beat it. So really smart players will take a lot of time, making sure they make adjustments, or if there's something, even if you win, that you weren't happy with, to keep on going. We are back, of course, in team preview. Some really cool teams on both sides. I think both of them kind of having a feature. But the Milotic we didn't see much from on Raghav's side of the field. We saw it come in, coil, miss a hypnosis, and then get knocked out. So maybe if that comes back, we get to see a little bit more.
When I originally talked about these teams, I was definitely looking at the Milotic for a little bit more sustainability on Raghav's side of the field, but I think that River ended up actually playing around that particularly well by targeting down the Milotic early on and making sure that that wasn't going to be a factor in the end game. So I think River set themselves up really well for the end game, but Raghav ended up just pivoting super well.
Yeah, no, it was really smart play. And Raghav obviously winning, but if the hypnosis hits, that game could become a lot more comprehensive as well, and kind of swing his way a little bit quicker. But I do have to wonder, if you're River, you do have kind of those faster options. You've got something like the Hydreigon. Hydreigon kind of sneaking up, I think, over the past few weeks in the usage charts. Of course, we do know that there is Dazzling Gleam over on the Togekiss from Raghav's side, so kind of off-putting, but it does change up how the team plays. And I'm wondering if River is going to make drastic changes or just slight adjustments to how he plays the game.
I don't think you have to make too many adjustments there. I mean, the linchpin of the team that River is running is Trick Room. So I don't know if we're going to see too much of an adjustment. Maybe a slight difference in how turn 0 and turn 1 end up playing out for River. But otherwise, I think that I don't think we're going to see too much of an adjustment.
No, I mean, he put himself in the right position, I think, a lot of the time. Just a couple of targeting issues. There is going to be a change-up, though, and Hydreigon landing in the lead, staring that Togekiss right down. That is not a pleasant place to be if you're Hydreigon, unless you believe you have a reliable way to take it out with ease. I don't know if that exists on Hydreigon, but it is a change-up, and that's something that's going to be very important.
Well, color me corrected, because we are going to see that change here, and it's actually going to be a pretty big change. I think River right off the bat is going for a Dynamax turn 1.
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly a camp of people who do think that Hydreigon is one of the best candidates to be Dynamaxing. You got to think about it, though. I mean, it's Dark Dragon as a typing. That's certainly something that Togekiss wants to redirect and grab with a Follow Me. It's not going to be the only one, though. Double Dynamax turn 1. Let's go. Both Pokemon just come out swinging. This is what we want to see from VGC in Sword and Shield format. Just two big boys swinging at it and going for it. There's going to be a lot of damage available here, and we'll see exactly who can carve out the biggest advantage.
Well, I think what's important to note is that Hydreigon actually Dynamaxed first before Raghav's Rotom did, so we are going to see a Follow Me coming out from River's Togekiss. That is going to make it the center of attention for River's side of the field, but a Max Flare right into the Rotom ends up taking about half damage from that, and that's going to put it in a knockout range if that ends up happening again for River's side.
Yeah, well, the Sunlight, of course, going to turn harsh. That's going to just activate the Citrus Berry, so Rotom, about 10 hit points and a half, coming back up. This Follow Me, though, does mean Togekiss is going to take a Max Lightning, holds on through it, so this Rotom, not enough to fell it immediately. And we do know that Raghav didn't Follow Me with his Togekiss, so we get to see exactly what he's decided to fire back on his side.
Oh, it's going to be that Dazzling Gleam too, which is going to be enough to knock out the Togekiss on Riverside, and it does a decent chunk of damage to the Hydreigon as well. That Hydreigon might not be long for this field.
Yeah, the problem is right now is Raghav's Togekiss isn't exactly super threatened at this current position. Of course, you could bring in something like Rhyperior, you could bring in something like the Ferrothorn to try and put a little bit more pressure on. There is the Ferrothorn, so that is going to help, but we've seen it take Gyro Balls very, very well. And I'm not quite sure, exactly how we're going to stop something like this Togekiss just hitting this Hydreigon. If the Hydreigon goes for another Max Flare, it is going to be benefited by the Sunlight, so it would probably get through all of that Rotom's health, even with the Citrus Berry, and I'll be curious to see exactly how it goes. Hydreigon's not taking any of it, though.
No, and neither is that Rotom. Both Dynamax Pokemon going for the Max Guard here, and that is going to keep that Hydreigon safe from another attack from the Dazzling Gleam, but Ferrothorn also takes that one on the chin, even with the critical hit. Now, Ferrothorn, though, being able to fire back with the Gyro Ball, that is going to prop the Babiri Berry on that Togekiss on Raghav's side of the field, and that's not going to do too much. That Babiri Berry keeping it very healthy.
Yeah, that's really helped. It does mean now that questions going to be asked if you're the Hydreigon and you want to get through this Togekiss before, of course, it manages to Dazzling Gleam you. You're going to be asking a lot of questions. I think he might be looking at Max Flare, and obviously it's not going to be boosted by the same type of attack bonus. It does have the Harsh Sunlight, which helps, and we'll see exactly if it can do it. Togekiss, though, keeping itself safe this turn. A really interesting play here as Hydreigon just starts Max Flaring again. No issue with its target, though.
No issue with its target, because that target's going to be the Rotom, and with the Sunlight, that is going to be enough to knock out the Rotom. And Rotom, while it was a big factor in that game 1, is not going to be nearly as much of an impact here in this game 2. Now the Gyro Ball will be missing because the Togekiss protected itself, but with the leftovers, we'll be able to regain a lot of the health that it lost to the Dazzling Gleam that it took.
Yeah, it's basically almost back up to full health immediately, so not in a bad position. If he can maybe get this Ferrothorn in a winning position towards the end of the game, could be really, really exciting. Arcanine coming in, though, landing the Intimidate, something we talked about before as being real helpful. And there is going to be actually a loss of the offensive pressure as Hydreigon is going to end this time Dynamaxed. And those Max Flares, probably coming off a Flamethrower now, the move it's based off, a whole lot more manageable for this Togekiss.
I would agree with that. Even with the Harsh Sunlight, though, that really affects both sides of the field, because Arcanine gets a chance to take advantage of that as well. So Ferrothorn for River's side of the field, not going to be super safe here with that Arcanine if it stays in this next turn.
As if Arcanine needed help to beat a Ferrothorn. There's no reason for it.
No.
We do get to see, though, River's last Pokemon is going to be the Jellicent, so potentially ending up with the same kind of back pairing that he had before. and see exactly where he goes. Hydreigon protecting this turn, definitely scared of those Dazzling Gleams right now. Arcanine also buying some time, just wants to protect. Does mean he's not going to have it available for him this following turn. Togekiss starts off with the Dazzling Gleams, looking to try and land a big hit, I think, off to this Hydreigon, take that away. But right now, it's a tough one. You know, there's no real way to stop this Togekiss, to stop this Jellicent, my apologies, for setting up the Trick Room. And if you just say, all right, I'll try and get some damage down with Hydreigon, I'll let it fall, and then, you know, hey, we're going to be able to bring the Ferrothorn in, it's going to be a little weird because you're bringing it in front of an Arcanine, but you already have its partner to deal with it. So we'll see exactly how both these trainers work around it. Hydreigon's last act is going to be to try and deal with Arcanine.
Ooh, and it actually hangs on with a sliver of health. Hydreigon tried its best, but it is going to take a little bit of damage coming in from the Life Orb. But even with the Life Orb, actually not going to be able to do too much. But Papa Berry getting procced, it's going to confuse the Arcanine.
Yeah, there is a drawback to some of these berries. We'll touch on that in a minute. Arcanine firing off the flamethrower towards this Hydreigon. And it's going to get the knockout there, taking advantage of the harsh sunlight. I'm going to be honest, there's people out here who are very much enjoying exactly what we've just witnessed. And yeah, we'll touch on that in a sec as Jellicent sets up Trick Room. So,
the Papa Berry, we got to go back to it.
Okay. So these berries have a really strange interaction. For those of you that don't know, they work a little differently to some berries. They do, of course, heal more health. You know, more health traditionally than the citrus berry. But depending on the nature, they might confuse the Pokemon if they don't like the taste.
Yeah, and I don't think that Arcanine liked the taste of that Papa Berry because it did get confused, but it was able to fire off the attack anyway. But this actually makes River's Ferrothorn a little bit safer here. Buys some time for maybe the Jellicent to actually take out the Arcanine.
I mean, Arcanine, it did recover some health, but at what cost? That really is a problem for him there. Something to note, of course, this is usually an issue we haven't seen in previous years, but trainers now, with new items available in Sword and Shield, are in a really good position to change their natures at will. You know, they've got the mints, and of course, there's natures that, you know, your Pokemon start with. You can then adjust those stats with the mints. And yeah, he might have run himself into a little bit of trouble there by forgetting exactly where he'd been bouncing the nature around. This is why we test, people. This is why you test your team on car.
Well, this switch in with the Milotic actually helped out Raghav quite a bit here. It will be able to get the Arcanine safe back into its Pokeball. But the biggest thing is that Milotic now being on the field, this was kind of a mute turn here for River. The Gyro Ball going into a Protect, and then a Scald coming out from the Jellicent into the Arcanine slot, which Milotic took like a champ.
Yep, Togekiss, though, looks like it wants to just make sure Milotic can do its work here. See exactly what it can do. The Gyro Ball will be heading that way. Not really much you can do about it. No Babiri Berry this time. And it's going to be a knockout on the Togekiss. This means a lot of pressure on this Milotic to do some work now.
And Jellicent going for another Scalded. You just got to kind of do some chip damage here, but you'll see it's not going to be super effective. Milotic going for another Coil here is going to get those accuracy boosts as well as the defense, and that is going to keep it fairly safe against the attacking pressure that River is putting forward on this battlefield.
Well, the last two Pokemon that Raghav have are decent answers, right? You know, the Arcanine is going to be able to deal with this. Ferrothorn, of course, it's left the field and come back, no longer confused. Doesn't matter about that berry anymore. But this, you know, if you can maybe work in the right moves, I do think Raghav's going to be able to carve out a really good position. There's 2 more turns of Trick Room to get through. If it was 1, it'd be a lot more manageable, I think. But 2 is going to be a bit of a problem. We'll see exactly what he goes for. The Ferrothorn starting off with Leech Seed.
Ferrothorn using Leech Seed into the Milotic slot, and Jellicent going for a Scald into the protected Arcanine. You're right about Trick Room being a problem, but Hypnosis, because of the Coil, the accuracy boost is going to go off here, and Jellicent getting put to sleep.
I think that is exactly what Raghav needed to do on this turn. Get that Jellicent to sleep. Make sure that he has at least 1 turn to try and land a Flamethrower into this Ferrothorn, and then just start working, of course, on this Jellicent. That is going to be a trickier Pokemon to deal with if you're in the shoes of this Milotic, but there's certainly going to be a few ways around it. The main thing now is he can't just lose his Arcanine to an easy Scald.
Yes, Arcanine is going to be safe for a couple of turns while that Jellicent is still asleep. Trick Room, also more importantly maybe, going to be able to be worked around here by Raghav as well, because there's only one more turn left, and both Pokemon on River's side of the field not being able to do very much here. Ferothorn going for a Protect. We are going to see the Jellicent stay asleep, and Milotic going for another Coil, this time also getting the attack boost.
Yeah, I mean, the Coil is just going to make life a little bit easier, I guess, if you want to land more Hypnosis over the course of this game. There is going to be a kind of a tough situation now. As Trick Room ends, this Arcanine is going to be in a premium position to just try and deal with this Ferrothorn, and then all we've got to do is find an answer to Jellicent, which I think is probably doable now.
Jellicent sitting at half HP. That's actually not too much to have to deal with, even for the Milotic.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of people, though, struggle. You know, we even saw that Rotom earlier just struggle to deal the damage it does. So it's a bulky Pokemon, very traditionally bulky. Ferrothorn does not land its double protect, so Arcanine going to be able to put the Pokemon count at 2-1 right here. Should be looking to seal up this game. Maybe we'll see exactly what this Milotic has available on its moveset apart from Coil. It's going to keep throwing out Hypnosis and see where it goes from there.
Keep throwing out the Hypnosis. It is going to get a bit of HP back here with the leftovers. Now, though, that the Ferothorn is not on the field, this is, I think, a much better position for Raghav to be in, but you still got to work through the Jellicent.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing here as well is the loss of the Ferrothorn means there isn't going to be Leech Seed in play. And we did, of course, see the Strength Stab from this Jellicent earlier. So if it comes down to a one-on-one, it could be, I mean, A, ridiculous, but B, it's going to be so small amounts. But that Jellicent can keep itself going in the same way that Milotic is with its leftovers. So I'll be curious to see exactly where it goes from here.
This is an important next couple of turns, though, for Raghav, because this Jellicent, you don't want it to wake up, but you also want to be able to do something with a Milotic, and that's not something you were able to really do next turn. But Arcanine going for a Snarl actually is going to show off the berry that this Jellicent is holding here.
That's a really nice reveal for Raghav, and I think this drastically swings exactly where we go. And the Colbur Berry revealed on this Jellicent, making sure Dark-type attacks don't do as much damage when they're super effective. And there's going to be the speed drop from Icy Wind, so special attack and speed down. Jellicent's only really known for one of them. Got to be a little bit cautious, of course, of this Hypnosis. I think that's something he wants to do. He's got the double Coil now. Wants to make sure that Jellicent is asleep at every potential opportunity. Milotic revealing, of course. Coil, Hypnosis, Icy Wind. That's doesn't leave many room for text there in the old swinging for big damage on Jellicent battle that he needs to take on.
No, but if there's any player that I think has really put themselves into a good position to deal with this long endgame stall, it's probably going to be both of the players that we see here on the field. Raghav and River understand this matchup really well and know what they need to do in order to take the win, but these next few turns are still very critical. Jellicent is still asleep, but it might not be for much longer.
Yeah, I mean, it's been asleep for a long time now. The problem is, it is going to be stuck on the field for the rest of the game. There's no other switches, and those Snarls are adding up. That's a good reveal on the Arcanine. Now he knows that he has a decent kind of answer to this Jellicent. It is going to be a lowered special attack. That's not exactly what you want. 2 stages now, and really struggling. It's speed down. It's not really a quick Pokemon. Jellicent's going to wake up, though, and start attacking again.
And the Arcanine takes it.
Yep.
It's actually still going to be on the field, and with all the speed drops that the Icy Wind has been getting onto the Jellicent, Raghav can take this game.
Yeah, I mean, he's been able to take a Scald because he's landed 2 Snarls, and that's a really cool play to see it. I think the Snarl and Icy Wind combo would be able to wrap it up. Jellicent just clinging on, but as long as Icy Wind lands, it's going to be game for Raghav, and he's going to take the set. Milotic just showing it still has Hypnosis. It is going to land after those coils, and just make sure River not afforded an opportunity to get back in this game, and great endgame board positioning, I think, by Raghav to put in this game.
That was an excellent safe play coming out from Raghav, knowing that, hey, Jellicent's awake. I just want to make sure that my Arcanine can hang on to use the last move here, and it's going to show off what that is. Flamethrower now into the Jellicent for the last bit of HP, getting the knockout and taking this series.
Yeah, Raghav starting his tournament really well there. The Dallas Regionals is going to be a long day, and you want to open your days up with some wins.